Okay, so with an image with a white background pulled up in Photoshop, that was done via file open, right? And you find your image on your computer. So maybe I want the banana, and I open it, and here it is. If I want to, let's say, copy paste this thing, what needs to happen is we need to tell Photoshop what to copy and paste, right? So to do that, I would like to use the selection tool, which is, or should be, selected by default, right, on your left-hand toolbar. So this is the second tool down. It looks like a square. It's the marquee selection tool, which is the kind of the square selection tool. So if I click and drag over the whole image, I will have selected the whole thing. That's evidenced by these lines that are scooting around the image. Those are called marching ants, okay? And if I want to copy paste, I can use Control-C, Control-V, or I could say edit, copy, edit, paste, okay? So when that happens, it doesn't look like much really went on in Photoshop, but it actually did paste a copy of this image. It pasted it as a layer, okay? These are like layers of paper that stack on top of one another, right? So if I want to move this thing around because I want to see that I copy pasted it, I might go to edit and drop down to free transform, okay? What this does is it lets me move this image around, right? And so when I thought I was making a copy of a banana, I actually was making a copy of the banana and its background, right? Which is really the problem, or really a problem, rather, because I just wanted it to look like there were two bananas, and I didn't really want it to look like this, right? So to transform, I went to Edit, Free Transform, and I grabbed one of the corners there. Okay, so I grabbed one of the corners and started pulling it in. Now to scale it proportionally, and this works in almost any graphics program out there, you hold the Shift key, okay? You hold Shift and it scales it proportionally. So you'll be able to scale it without warping it, right? Because if I make my banana look like that, it's pretty goofy, right? And to get out of free transform, this is oftentimes a problem. I can't select another tool until I apply the transformation. You see, it asked me, do I want to apply the transformation? Now, to do that quickly, you can look towards the center top of your settings on your toolbar there, and you could say yes or no, or you could hit the enter key on your keyboard, which accepts the fact that you've transformed this layer, or you've accepted the move that you made, right? It's kind of complex why it needs that, but it does, right? Sometimes if you hit enter or press the checkbox, you're good to go. But it'll get you stuck sometimes where you can't use other tools because of that, right? So we really haven't gotten too far with getting a copy of this banana. So let's try some different techniques on selecting the banana. So selection is a huge part of Photoshop, right? So a great way to get rid of that junk banana copy there is to look at this layer that's pasted, right? And we can click on the trash can down below that layers menu, and it will delete the layer if we tell it yes. So to try another way of selecting this banana, we can move one tool down here, one below our rectangular selection tool, right? We can move to the Lasso tool, and this one is pretty interesting. It lets you draw your selection. So I can click and drag and draw a selection around my banana, right? And I could copy and paste that. I'd Control-C and Control-V, copy paste that, and now I have a copy of my banana, which isn't too bad. Isn't too bad. Except we still have this annoying white kind of area where whenever I drew the selection, I got some extra white background in there. If you zoom in far enough on this image, you'll see there are colored pixels and there are white pixels in this image, right? In the grid of pixels. And that's why we're getting white information whenever we copy and paste. It's coming along for the ride. So, yeah. So we could use maybe the eraser tool, okay? And we could go around and we could erase part of that layer. So I use the Lasso tool. It's the third tool down. Yeah. So you could even lasso parts of the white area to select them, and you could hit delete and delete them, right? So we could go along and we could refine this edge and delete this from its background so that it doesn't carry any of the white over with it. But this is prone to errors like that because we're using a mouse and it's really hard and time consuming, right? So this isn't really the method that we want to use to subtract this from our background. This is another selection method that's pretty useful, but it's not really going to help me out in this case, okay? So let's try yet another selection tool, which is just, okay, right click on it if you want to see the normal lasso if you don't see it. Right click on the magnetic lasso or polygonal. There you go. So let's move one selection tool down further than the lasso. This is called the quick select tool, okay? The quick select tool is my favorite way of selecting things in Photoshop, okay? It's a brush-based tool, and it's going to make life really easy for us. So first off, let's delete that garbage layer that we made. So look at that extra layer that we pasted with the white rim around our object, and let's go ahead and use the trash can here. And yes, I want to delete that layer. So now with the new quick selection tool, this is going to make life easy, okay? All I need to do is keep dragging this tool in areas that are similar in color, right? And it will select those entire areas. So I'm going to click in the stem of the banana and drag. And I'm going to drag around until it has the whole stem selected. And then I'll continue dragging down into the banana body, right, until it selects the whole banana. In which case, ta-da, I have just the banana selected and none of the white pixels. Well, hopefully, right? If you want to change the size of the brush on this quick selection tool, you should be able to look in the settings up here underneath your main toolbar and click this down button to change the size. That, or you should be able to change the size with the left and right brackets that are near the right side enter key on your keyboard. Okay, you can make this too big where it doesn't work or too small where it's annoying. Anyways, with this banana selected, we can copy paste it without fear that we're getting some of the background in there, right? So I've copy pasted it. I've now I'm going to free transform, right? The shortcut for that is Control T. And maybe I'll make this banana a little bit different in size so that we can see that it's a separate banana. And I'll accept that transformation, and ta-da, I have two bananas, and it looks realistic, right? So instead of copying the whole image, which would not really work all that well, we're just going to select the area that we need, and we're just going to copy that area. Now, whenever you select using the quick select tool, if you capture areas that are not what you wanted to select, such as some of the white here, Let's see if it'll do it. It won't do it on this image. It's too crisp. If you capture areas that you didn't want to select, you can revise your selection by holding the Alt key and clicking. So if I didn't want to select the stem, I could hold Alt and I could click and drag over areas and it deletes them from the selection. So now if I copy paste this banana, right, I'm not going to copy paste this stem area at all, right? I'm just going to copy paste basically the yellow part of the banana. It works vice versa. If you have an area that you wanted to select or you meant for it to select but it didn't, and you don't want to reselect everything in one go, just hold Shift on your keyboard. It'll turn to a plus sign on that brush and you can add to your selection, okay? Selections are huge in Photoshop. They make all the difference between someone who works quickly in Photoshop and someone who takes a really long time to do basic tasks, okay? If you look on Amazon, let's say Amazon's website, you'll see that pretty much every item on Amazon has a white background, right? Now, they weren't all photographed that way, right? Pretty much everything on Amazon at some point ran through Photoshop, right? Pretty much everything on Amazon ran through Photoshop because it needed the white background. They added these little shadows, or maybe they had a special photo rig, but it doesn't just automatically make a white background just because you have a white sheet behind there in a photo, as you probably know. So this is an essential skill for subtracting something from its background in Photoshop.